Pixar is a company that has been around for almost 3 decades now and has touched the world with its groundbreaking animation and storylines, leaving its audiences in awe. So today I'm here to rank all of the Disney Pixar movies, including the most recent installment of Elemental. So let's get into it. Starting in the bottom 27 spot with Lightyear, a very boring and poorly written story that disappointed many of people, especially Toy Story fans such as myself. This movie had the potential to be so groundbreaking, but instead it ended up being a complete and utter disappointment, and in my opinion, tarnished the Toy Story movies, which are a Pixar classic. Moving to the number 26 spot, we have A Bug's Life. Once again, this is a movie I found to be particularly boring and in no way engaging. Flick was a very strong protagonist, but the film didn't allow for all the strengths to be fully utilized, making the movie very disappointing. And to no surprise, in the number 25 spot, we have Cars 2. Everyone saw this movie being closer to the bottom of this list. This movie is just notoriously known for being a bad movie that had a terrible plot and excessive toilet humor. Not a great movie for Disney and Pixar, which is disappointing because I'm a huge fan of the Cars movies. And in the number 24 spot, we have Brave. Now, this movie is unique in the sense of that it is the only Disney princess movie done by Pixar. And while, in my opinion, the movie was very well executed and tells a wonderful story of a mother-daughter relationship being rekindled, it doesn't compare to the other movies on the list, dragging it to its spot on the bottom of the list. Now, in the number 23 spot, we have The Good Dinosaur. Now, this movie tells a very interesting story of how two very different characters can both look past their differences and become friends, but there were too many pregnant parts of the film that carried on for way too long and is not nearly as entertaining as the other movies on this list, once again putting it as low as it is. And next is Soul. Now, this movie tells a great story of existentialism that's incredibly interesting to watch and explores how sometimes people become too emotionally wrapped up in the future and what life should be rather than what it is and just how enjoyable it can be. Now, despite the brilliance of the movie, Joe is a beyond insufferable character that makes the movie beyond frustrating to watch, putting it this low on the list. And now we have Toy Story 4. Now, this was a movie that left the other toys in the dark, which is what brings it down this much. But looking past that, it is a fabulous movie that reintroduces Bo as a much more edgy and rebellious version of herself and portrays a more humble and somewhat insecure version of Woody. This movie is intriguing because you watch Woody be demoted from the favorite star toy to the forgotten one and his essential retirement from being a toy that touched the lives of two people that brought him a sense of fulfillment to bringing that same satisfaction to other toys desperate for the same experience, and his departure from the classic Toy Story group to move on to a new chapter in his toy life. And now Elemental, Disney and Pixar's most recent installment and only one for the year of 2023. The movie tells a great story of how Ember and Wade can see past their differences and form a life-changing relationship for each other, but follows a very typical movie formula and was very predictable, leaving it in the number 20 spot. And now Cars, the black sheep of Pixar. This is a movie that I have a bit of a soft spot for, and I've grown a very fun liking of because it's very interesting watching Lightning McQueen break out of his cocky and carefree persona to a more appreciative and sentimental version of himself, putting it at least higher than the ones just listed. And now Toy Story 2, the second installment of the Toy Story saga and the third Pixar movie. A great movie that portrays sentimentality but drags just a little bit periodically and has poor animation, putting it this low on the list. And now Toy Story, the first and original Pixar movie. I have grown very fond of this movie, but compared to the other movies on this list, it is somewhat of a bland movie now compared to its succeeding ones. And now Monsters Inc., another classic Disney Pixar movie with a classic best friend duo, and also has a well-written plot and an endearing and well-executed relationship between Sully and Boo. And while I love this movie, there are still just so many others on this list that I have a much deeper fondness and liking for. And now, Finding Nemo, a beautiful movie about a father's love for his son and his relentless pursuit to find him again, hence the name. A movie with highly likable and notable characters, another classic movie, but through Pixar's development has been rivaled by other films. And now its sequel, Finding Dory, a movie that has some sentimental value for me because I watched this movie for the first time in the theaters. Many people say this movie doesn't compare to Finding Nemo, but I think this movie is very well executed and is even better than Finding Nemo because it's not just about Dory finding someone, but it's also about rediscovering her past. And the movie proves an underdog character like Dory can carry a story, making this movie superior to its predecessor. And now, Wall-E, a movie that is known for its incredible ability to execute such an intricate story involving romance with little to no dialogue. A movie I appreciate a lot for its uniqueness, and Wall-E, who is a beyond endearing character to watch. And now in the number 12 spot, Up. This is a fabulous movie and is loved by so many people in the Disney fandom. I love the relationship between Carl and Russell, and how Russell was able to give Carl what he was lacking in life, that being love, as well as watching Carl carry out a lifelong dream and adventure, inspiring him that there's always something more to do. I love this movie, and it's so touching, and I know a lot of people can agree with me on that. And my favorite installment of the Cars movies, Cars 3. It's so interesting watching Lightning McQueen having to refresh himself as a competitor, but in the end gives the opportunity to someone who always wanted the life that he did, but also gives the realistic message to Cruz that life is full of failures and disappointments, making this such an amazing and incredible movie to watch. And now, finally, getting into my top 10, Inside Out. I love how this movie portrays how in life you're going to feel one way other than happy, but that's also a part of the experience of living, and how it's not always a bad thing to not always be happy. This is another longtime favorite of mine, putting it in the top 10. And just the execution of this movie is amazing, and I could watch this endlessly. And now, Monsters University. Now, this movie is special because it's the only Disney Pixar prequel, but looking past that tells a very interesting story of how Mike and Sully's relationship started, but gives an important message to its audience that even if you try your hardest in life and persevere to achieve something, it may not always happen, but how there's always other goals to strive for, making this actually a brilliant movie in its essence. And now, The Incredibles, a movie that I've grown to love in the past because it's very interesting watching Bob experience a midlife crisis, but be given a second chance to be a superhero again, thinking it was all that was left for him, but realizes in his pursuits he still has a family to look after, which he realizes in the end is his greatest treasure above any superpower or hero work. And Syndrome as a villain is fabulous and has awesome motivations. Who wouldn't want to get revenge on someone who turned down and abolished their childhood dreams? But the means Syndrome goes to get revenge on Mr. Incredible was unbelievable and made the movie even more intriguing to watch, putting it this high on the list. And now, Incredibles 2, a great sequel to The Incredibles. This is another sentimental movie for me because I was a lot younger when this movie came out, and I loved it then, and I still do now. The action parts of this movie are awesome, and watching Helen and Bob work through their doubts and weaknesses was so interesting to watch, and watching Violet and Dash work together in the end was so enjoyable. This is a movie I'll never get tired of watching. And now my favorite of the Toy Story movies, Toy Story 3. I love how the movie portrays how growing up is a wonderful part of life, and watching the toys be grateful for each other and have each other's backs throughout the movie is amazing. And watching them be given a second chance with Bonnie in the end just feels so full circle, and this is another awesome movie that I will never get tired of watching. Now, finally getting into my top 5. These 5 movies I absolutely love and find to be amazing. So the ranking here got a little bit difficult. Ratatouille is a great movie and is severely underrated. The relationship between Remy and Linguini is so touching because they both help each other tremendously in some regard. Remy helped Linguini have a better quality of life, while Linguini gave Remy the chance to live his dream of becoming a chef, making this a very warm story. And now, Coco. The plot of this movie is unbelievable. From it turning out Ernesto was the true villain in the story, to Hector turning out to be Miguel's great great grandfather, to Miguel's family being able to forgive Hector, this movie is beyond a masterpiece, both in its story and animation. And now, Luca, this movie is beautiful. Pixar is known for always having such well thought out and intrinsic plots. While this movie had a less dynamic plot compared to other Disney Pixar movies, has such well rounded, well written, well executed characters, making it so engaging to watch, and the relationships between the characters makes it so heartfelt too, making this one of my favorite Pixar movies ever. There are simply just two that just rival it just a little bit more. And now, Turning Red. This movie resonates with me tremendously because it explores and depicts change and what it means to grow up and become independent and embrace who you are, and also explores self-acceptance and things you feel passionately about. And this is an amazing and awesome film, and it is honestly flawless on its part. There is just one that is a little bit better. My all-time favorite Pixar movie, Onward. This portrays a remarkable story with awesome characters, plot, dialogue, and climax. Watching Ian and Barley work together as brothers and realize the importance they both carry for each other in the end is so heartwarming, and is a story that is beyond immaculate, making it my favorite Disney Pixar movie of all time and being my gold spot on this list. I hope you enjoyed my video of my Disney Pixar movie ranking and found my insights interesting. Stay tuned for upcoming videos. Until then, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Until then, catch you later.